Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Down in the Country podcast. I'm your host, Dylan Reed, and today we are joined by Alexis Curran, also known as XO-LEX, who's an up and coming country music artist. Thank you so much for your time today, Lex.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
And so you describe yourself as a nonconformist country woman. How have you used that to stay true to yourself when forging your own path in the genre of country music?
Yeah, I feel like as a female in today's, society, it's just hard to continue on the path to like stay true to yourself. It's something I've always just like every day wake up, I'm like, I'm going to be unapologetically myself. I'm not going to conform in a box everyone wants me to be in. I'm just going to be me. And in order for me to do that, I had to have a great support system, a great team, and just a good head on my shoulders, which I really give it to God for that because in today's world, it's just hard to, stick with that.
Mhm. Awesome. And so, specifically two songs that you have written, and I'll play a clip of both of them is Ain't Buying It and then also Daisy Dukes. To start off with Ain't Buying It, can you just give us an introduction, like what the song was about and kind of what your thought process was and what you were listening to at the time when you wrote it?
Yeah, and buying it actually kind of happened randomly. I was actually downstairs in my aunt's basement and I called one of my friends who is also a great singer songwriter, Ellie Mae. I said, "Hey, can you come over here? I have to write about this because I just found out my younger sister got cheated on." So the song "Ain't Buying It" is really wrote with the emotions that I felt that my sister had about her getting cheated on, which was we wrote it within like honestly 10 minutes, and then it was just over with from then on. Like the song just did its thing.
Awesome. And so I'm gonna play like a 45-second clip of Ain't Buying It. So then that way, you know, everyone
Everyone
can,
gets it. Yeah.
yeah.
Mama said, be the bigger person. Dad says, hit 'em where it hurts. I'm standing here with my arms wide open. Little do you know, I know about her. Got you in the lot last Sunday evening. Said you were hanging out with your friends. But I drove by and I saw you leaving a cheap motel off Highway 10. Yeah, I did. You can change, you can lie, but you ain't gonna change my mind. I got eyes and eyes, so I ain't buying it. It's groovy, huh?
Yeah, I really love how you kind of layered it. So you kind of started off with like strong vocals with kind of a minimal sound to the instrumental aspect, and then it's 20 to 25 seconds of the song, you completely make the inverse on
Yeah,
that.
thank you. Appreciate it. The production was done by Bobby Terry. He's like a legend in Nashville, so
And
love him.
what were you like kind of specifically about that song? Like, were you listening to any particular artist, or kind of like what were you doing kind of from like a non-musical standpoint that made you really decide to layer that song in that particular order?
Yeah, I feel like I just kind of dip and dab. I like to call it in like all genres. I love every genre, whether it's R&B, rock, EDM. Like I try to kind of incorporate a lot of culture in my music, and I feel like with Ain't Buying It, it kind of gives you a lot of cultures in a sense. Exactly how you stated prior, where it's like, it's the minimal sound, then it's like, oh, it hits you. I feel like just in general, me like growing up listening to like country, whether that be like, I love Miley Cyrus. I love how Lady Gaga's unapologetically herself, Teddy Swims. I try to incorporate that along with like Hardy's lyricism. I don't know if that's a word, but I just made it up on the spot. But like lyric wise, I feel like the song is no good if the lyrics aren't good. So
Mhm.
you have to incorporate a story somehow. So we
Yeah,
kind of did the mix of everything. We had good lyrics, we had a good story, and we had a good production. So
yeah, yeah. Well, and that's
yeah,
what I love about country music and why it's personally my favorite genre is it's the genre that's able to tell like a story that everyone can relate to on top of like a great melody, and it seems like if
yeah,
you have both of those then you're really off to the races.
no, for sure, for sure.
And then you also have another song that's been um, that was just recently released, Daisy's Dukes. And so,
Daisy Dukes.
can you just provide kind of an introduction of what that song is about?
Yeah, so I wrote it. I had an idea of like I'm a country girl, but I'm also a city girl. And when I'm in the city, I miss the country, and when I'm in the country, I miss the city. So I was like, how do I incorporate a song where it's like whenever I'm in the city, I miss my roots, like I miss my where I grew up. And so I kind of wrote Daisy Dukes about me evolving into the woman I am, growing up by like, and I think I left town when I was 18 to go to college. So like literally from what when I was a baby till 18 years old, that's like what the song's about, is like the things I did, the memories made, things like that. So
Awesome. And I'm going to also be playing a clip of that song too, as well, just so that
yeah,
people can compare and contrast the difference between Daisy Dukes and Ain't Buying It.
awesome. It's so country too.
Hmm.
Mama steady blowing up my phone, saying, baby, down. Don't forget where you came from. Swear on my soul, mama, I won't. In fact, I was just wishing I was. Yeah. Back in my daisy days, in the country roads, yeah. Holding hands in the Cadillac. No socks, no shoes, getting back to my roots. Pass around, sipping, sipping, moonshine.
I love how you kind of have that kind of that bluesy influence on top of that kind of rock. I really loved how you mixed both of those together on top of the very powerful subject matter of the
Thank
vocals.
you. Appreciate that. Yeah, I really like the song because again, it incorporates both like rock, soul, and just we even have a rap part in it. So it's just kind of fun, you know.
Yeah.
It's a fun song.
And whoever does your like Spotify video reels filming, I love the fishing
Oh,
aspect.
thanks, thanks. Yeah, the music video is gonna be dropped soon. We don't have a date yet. We're pitching it to a couple people, but when we do, I'll definitely keep you guys updated.
And what were you like similarly to Ain't Buying It? Like, were you listening to any particular artist, or what were you experimenting with the sound of this particular track?
Yeah, I really just kind of like I don't everything I do musically wise is like me. I don't like, I have obviously people I look up to, but like when it comes to my music, like I think it just kind of just does its own thing, if that makes sense. Like I'm like, oh, this, like, of course people are like, oh my gosh, you sound like a mix of Miley and Adele. Well, it's not like I'm trying to. It's just like it just happens. Um, but yeah, like whenever I'm in the studio, we kind of just piece together stuff, and if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. You know.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And
lately I have been listening to a lot of Lacey K. Booth. I love her. And I do see like my writing has kind of just it's grown in a sense of where like I don't even need much other than an acoustic guitar like to paint the picture to that I want to paint. You know what I
mm,
mean?
mhm. And it seems like listening to both of those songs, just like the lyrical structure of each song is different. And so I'm really curious about how have each of these songs allowed you to grow as an artist while staying true to yourself as a person?
Yeah. Well, luckily I just have like back to my team that I have is they're just amazing. And since we've created this team a year ago, the way I write songs is just 10 times better than how I wrote songs back 2 years ago. I just keep, growing and evolving and finding like just what works for me and what doesn't. And I've been doing this music stuff probably for like I think now 4 years. Like it'll be 4 years by the end of this year. So hopefully I'll just continue growing and having my music sound way better than the music I made last year, because I do see growth every time I make a song. Like every time I write a song, there's just more growth. Better if whether it be better writing or better lyrics. It's just somewhere it's always growing, you know?
Mm-hmm. It's like when you write something and and it's difficult to explain. It's, when you write something and you're like, this fits or this totally doesn't fit. Like, it's very hard to kind of explain that to someone
Yeah.
from my experiences.
No, it is. It is. And like again, when I write, it's not like I'm like, oh, I have to write about this right now. Like, no, it's really just the vibe you catch, the energy
Mm-hmm.
you catch in the writes that you have scheduled or the studio sessions you have. Like it really just depends on that, like of
Mm-hmm.
what I write about. It
Mm-hmm.
can be a different I could switch the mood right in the middle of the studio session and write about something different. You never know.
Mm-hmm. And that's, you know, I would argue that's the beauty of music.
No, definitely. Definitely.
Mm.
Yeah.
And then there was a quote on your website that I really loved, and I think that everyone should have the opportunity to check out your website if you haven't. But the quote is, "No matter what, my energy speaks for itself, and I hope that people can feel that and connect with me through my music to know they're not alone."
Hmm.
What does that quote mean to you? And how do you portray the above mentioned quote to your listeners in your music, such as songs like Ain't Buying It and Daisy Dukes, to name a few?
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, I put out music to bring people together. I think music's a beautiful thing, as especially if it's used in the correct way by the correct people. And again, I'm always going to be unapologetically myself. I'm never going to put myself into a box where I can't flourish, you know? And I've witnessed that a few times over the past years as as an independent female artist. And so when I made that quote, I'm like, my energy speaks for itself. So the people who meet me and the people who take the time to listen to my music, they'll know I put my all into that music. They'll know I put real stories, real authentic things that have happened in my life that that have probably happened to them that they probably can relate to. And as long as I'm making somebody know that they're not alone or that they can get through it, or that person that did them wrong, then that's just what I'm doing music for, is to bring people together, to especially bring all cultures together. Like I'm not just trying to hit the country genre, I'm trying to hit people who don't even like country, you know.
Hmm. So then, would you say that music is just like a melodic representation of experiences and trying to share those experiences with others and making sure that um, letting them know that it's like it's okay that you're going through the situation because
Yeah.
everyone has experienced this.
Oh my gosh, yeah, for sure. Because we all know heartbreak, getting cheated on, family issues, identity issues. It's all something that every single person goes through throughout their life. And I write about it. I mean, I literally create songs about it. So I just think one thing I'm destined to do and on this earth is to write music and to bring people together. And that's why I'm like, you'll hear it in my music. And if you don't hear it in my music, that sucks. I don't know what to tell you. I feel like I do my best to really do to put it all in there. So, you know.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, and kind of one of the things, when I started this podcast, that I was very interested in getting to know is I think a lot of the time, you know, people have the tendency, and it's not a bad thing, it just naturally happens in conversations like, oh, let's talk about the music first. And because the music is really going to carry the conversation. And I kind of really take the inverse of, well, if you don't really understand the person, then you can't really understand the music and kind of why it's created this way, why it's written this way, why the sounds are this way. So I'm really curious about, specifically, like, how is your hometown of Chariton, Iowa, represented in your music and who you are as a person?
I mean, I am so thankful that I grew up in Sheraton, Iowa. I mean, just yesterday, I got sent a few videos of like 40 kids dancing to my Strangers Again song for a dance class. And like, you don't get to experience those type of emotions if you grew up in a big city. People don't take the time to be like, oh, how will this affect her? Like the amount of support I've received in my hometown is exactly why I keep going. Because I mean, it's if you've interviewed independent artists before, like the road to where you want to go is a long, hard, horrible road. But if you keep going because you have people that believe in you and sit beside you, which AKA Sheraton, Iowa does, then like that's my purpose right there. And also the way I grew up, like you there was never a horrible person in this town. Like you would always be waved at, said hello to, said goodbye to, taken care of. That is still what I incorporate in my daily life in the city. I make sure everyone that's seen me is just like not seeing a horrible version, because we all have, a horrible side that we don't want to have come out when we're having a bad day. But when we're having a bad day, to be able to put a smile on someone else's face. You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
So Sheraton has definitely molded me into somebody that I am actually proud of. Like, there's different versions that we all go through in life where we're like, oh, that was, let's try to forget that. But like, one version of myself that I could always stay consistent on being is who I grew up being,
mm,
and that was from Sheraton. So, and I feel like a lot of people who grew up from Sheraton and are in the city doing big and like huge things, like they'll say the same thing. Like, Sheraton is such a great place to grow up because you're just such a genuine person. Like,
mm,
you can't fake that. You know what I'm saying? Where
mm.
like if you grew up in the city, I mean, people don't hold doors for you. They don't smile. They don't wave. Like, it's just weird. I never experienced that growing up. So
Hmm.
yeah,
And so
I
is
try
it?
to be a light. I try to be a light because that's what I grew up. Like, my parents are always light in every room. They're nice to everybody. They donate money. Like, I just try to do all the things that I grew up doing and that I grew up seeing. So
Hmm.
yeah,
And so, if you don't mind me, is your town, is it kind of one of those where like Bob knows Jill and Jill knows Steve?
everyone knows everything. There's 5,000 people in my town. I had 100 classmates in my school. 420 in the high school. So I mean, everyone knew everybody. You could not get away with anything in Sheridan, Iowa.
And like, how is that? Like, was there a particular situation like where you grew up that made you realize, like, hey, like I want to be a musician. This is, I want to be XO-LEX. This is what I was made on this earth to be.
Yeah, I've always like wrote songs since I was little. I sang for fun and like had a few events growing up, but I never really took singing seriously until COVID hit. When I was just bored at home and not having to do like my corporate life, I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll just go to the studio and kill time. And once I hit the studio, everyone's like, wait, this is your first time in the studio? Like, you have an incredible talent. Like, you need to utilize it. And so then I started getting like flown out places to record and to write. And by the time like end of COVID, I was just in deep and I loved it and I enjoyed every moment of it. And that's when I pretty much started taking it seriously.
And how does XO-LEX want to contribute to the genre as well as the community of country music?
I just want to pave a path for any independent artist off on their own that doesn't just want to stick be stuck in a little box. I want to be somebody they can look up to and be like, okay, she did it, and look at her. You know what I'm saying? So I just know with every, because I've been told time and time again, like, oh, you won't work there, you won't work there, you need to do this, you need to do that. Oh, you can't get there with you liking this genre, and this genre. You need to stick to one genre, and it's like, I music is so beautiful. You don't have to stick to one genre. You don't have to be, oh, she's just a country artist. Like, of course that is what I am, but I want to be bigger than just country. I want to be a cultural like artist for everybody. You know what I mean? And
Mm,
thankfully, like Morgan Wallen and doing a song with all sorts of different artists from all sorts of genres, just like Lana Del Rey just did a song with Quavo. Like, I think that's beautiful in itself. Like, those are two different cultures and two different backgrounds coming together to write music, which will bring people together. You know what I
hmm.
mean?
Yeah.
So that's I just want to be an inspiration to just keep going, to keep grinding, and to keep making music that you want to make. You know what I mean?
Hmm. And in particular, because you mentioned, artists, was there, where you were growing up, was there like an artist and or a song that you really had like a strong emotional connection to that really gave you a great foundation in going into the music space?
Um, growing up, I didn't have anyone to really look up to. There was no artists in my town nor in my college.
Yeah.
But I mean, clearly I had tons of songs that would make me think of a bigger picture. You know what I mean? Like Natasha, feel the rain on your skin. No one else can live it for you. Like that stuff. That music definitely was big when I was little. But
Hmm.
like again, when it comes to my music in general, like there's been so many artists that have paved and helped me along the way. I can't even pinpoint like somebody who was like, "Oh, that's who helped me with this." Like because
Hmm.
it was so many of them. I love all genres. There's so many and so different. It's so many, you know what I mean? So it's like whenever people are like, "Oh, who do you like look up to?" I'm like, I always usually say Miley Cyrus because again, like we have a lot of similarities with it, our voice, our growing up, like our family situation, like we have a lot in common. And I just think her always sticking and beside herself and to like just love herself regardless of what's going on. I admired that. Like
Hmm.
even through the whole wrecking ball, I'm like, I admire it. You know what I'm saying? Like, do what you got to
Hmm.
do. Do what you got to do.
Yeah.
People were crapping on her, but I'm like, it is weird, but do what you got to do. Like, the real fans are gonna stick beside her and love her, and that's what she probably wanted. So
Hmm. And yeah, because for me, the song in the album that I remember to, and I'll start with the album, that the album that I remember to listening to straight through, and we still have like the hard disk of it, is George Strait's 1997 Carrying Your Love With Me album,
yeah,
which is like a classic. And then I Hope You Dance, which was the song that I had the most emotional attachment to, by Leanne Womack. It was a
oh
big
yeah,
2000 hit.
you
Um,
did. Mhm.
and then there was another artist too as well that I listened to a lot growing up, was Nikki Gilly too as well. So it's I'm from Texas, and I don't
Yeah,
yeah, and it's not a coincidence that all three of those artists are from Texas. So
yeah. I listened to a lot of Johnny Cash, George Strait. I mean, that's why I did it my own Folsom Prison Blues vibe because I was like I have to like me and my dad. That's something me and my dad always watched was Johnny Cash. So
mhm.
yeah, that hit
and
home.
and then you know, specifically kind of what upcoming plans do you have? Like, are you dropping any new music? I know you were mentioning a new music video, getting into the studio, upcoming shows, or kind of like what's in store for XO-LEX within the next 6 months to a year?
Yeah, I actually have an EP dropping somewhat in July. We have a music video dropping, and it's a lot of big things. I have a lot of big gigs coming up in July. So the ball's moving. Hopefully, it moves, continues to love me and adore me, and keeps growing. But yeah, I have 4 songs on an EP dropping in July. So I'm excited about that.
Awesome. And where can people find more about you, Lex?
XOLEX website is just like I'm pretty sure it's www.xolexofficial.com. And then obviously all my handles are XOLEX. So yeah, you should follow me if you want to hear more of me because there's a lot more to hear. So
Awesome. And be sure to follow Down in the Country podcast on YouTube. We're also available on Spotify and Apple Podcast, as well as Instagram account, Down in the Podcast One, where you will also have access to my link tree, and you can see where you're able to find this podcast episode. This is Dylan Reed signing off. Thank you so much for your time again, Lex.
thank you.